A 500% tariff would instantly wipe out 18% of India's entire export economy overnight. This is not a drill, but a look at a terrifying hypothetical scenario where trade policy becomes a blunt geopolitical weapon. Let's break down exactly what happens if the US decides to impose a massive 500% tariff on India. The context here is a hypothetical situation in 2026 where the US passes a bill punishing countries that buy oil from Russia. The penalty is a tariff wall so high it is practically impossible to climb. Here is the immediate impact. Imagine a pharmaceutical shipment worth 1 crore rupees. By the time it reaches an American port, that shipment now costs 6 crore. A standard t-shirt you buy at Walmart for $10 would skyrocket to $60. At those prices, demand doesn't just drop, it evaporates. No procurement head in the US is going to pay 6 times the price for Indian IT services or textiles when they can just look elsewhere. This is a massive problem because the US is India's single largest export partner. We are talking about $80 billion worth of goods like electronics, gems, chemicals, and engineering supplies. If that door slams shut, we have a massive economic hole to fill. You might think the solution is simple. Just sell to other countries, right? Well, let's look at the math. It is brutal. India's second largest export destination is the UAE, and they only account for about 8% of exports. The Netherlands is next at roughly 5%. You could combine the demand from the UAE, Netherlands, Singapore, China, the UK, Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, and Germany, and collectively they barely cover half of what the US buys alone. We can sign free trade agreements all day long. We already have deals with the UAE, the UK, and Singapore, and we are negotiating with the EU. But ink on a page doesn't magically create demand. The Netherlands cannot suddenly import billions more in pharmaceuticals just because we need them to. Singapore isn't going to replace the US as a buyer of heavy engineering services. Every economy has a capacity limit. Plus, there is the issue of product fit. You can't just ship high-end drugs or complex software to a new market overnight. You need regulatory approvals, legal frameworks, and intellectual property protection. Building those relationships takes years of trust and compliance work. You can offer the same drug to 5 new countries, but if their hospitals don't need it at that scale, the market simply does not exist. So, what is the actual strategy if this nightmare scenario comes true? It is not about replacing the US overnight, because that is impossible. It is about lowering the risk over time. First, India has to keep signing strategic trade deals to lower friction for the future. We treat these agreements as fireproofing, not firefighting. Second, and most importantly, we have to build demand at home. If exports falter, the domestic economy needs to be strong enough to absorb the shock. This means boosting consumption through infrastructure, rural spending, and helping local businesses scale. We have seen private consumption growing at nearly 8% recently, which is a good sign. The harsh reality is that we cannot afford to lose the US market right now. It is too big, too wealthy, and too deeply integrated into our ecosystem. We can survive by pivoting slowly, but a sudden shock requires a strong domestic fortress. The best move right now isn't retaliation, it is negotiation. Because trade is ultimately about relationships, and we need to keep this one alive while we build our own strength.